and Matchroom Boxing USA announce a new groundbreaking partnership.
First of all, welcome to New York once again, the home of the first place New York
I've got
Yankees.
to get myself a pair of those glasses.
You can get them online. I wish I worked.
Blue blockers.
BLUBLOCKER. You can get them online.
Fly.
They're on Amazon.
They are fly.
Yeah,
As they say, as a kid say in England, they are lit.
Yeah, they say that here too.
Do they? Good. Okay.
I used to be a kid.
Litty, lit.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. This deal that we've been talking about with DAZN, what will be your role in it? Because when you deal with HBO, you have Peter Nelson and his people. When you deal with Showtime, you have Steven Espinoza. What will there be some equivalent to that, or are you the equivalent to that for boxing for DAZN?
Obviously, you know, we're working for the platform. They're the guys who are paying the money. But at the same time, one of the attractions to this deal was our ability to work off a blank canvas in terms of the fights, in terms of the production, in terms of the look and the feel, in terms of the talent. We don't want to come on air at 10 o'clock because there's a film on before. We want to come on air at 5 o'clock, show the fans all the fights. We want shoulder programming, build-up programming to get you excited about the night. So I guess as a fight fan, this is going to be a platform built by a fight fan for the fight fan. Of course, we've got 16 US shows. We've got 16 of our big shows from the UK as well. Other boxing content going on. But this is a sports platform. This isn't just a boxing platform. Wait till you see boxing's just one of the sports they've invested in. So this is going to get plenty of traction. And you know, it's an honour really to have 16 shows. Obviously a lot of money to work with as well. But more importantly for me, the freedom to develop something different. You know, I don't want to be working with a broadcaster who, you know, for example, says that we can't do a walk-on like that, and we don't, you know, the music's too loud. We can't. You know, we've got to create a fan experience in the arena and for them watching at home.
How will this affect your deals? You have Danny Jacobs in the U.S. fighting on HBO, Anthony Joshua on Showtime. You've had fighters on other networks like Scott Quigg on ESPN. But specifically, how will it affect your shows on HBO and Anthony's relation with Showtime?
Well, Jacobs remains on HBO. And we're very happy with him on HBO. You know, I have a great relationship with HBO, but they couldn't give me what I wanted, which was a huge number of shows and a huge amount of money, because it was the only way that I was going to build an unrivaled stable of fighters, which I will do now. But I have a good relationship with Showtime. Joshua is a free agent in terms of US broadcaster, so we'll see what happens there. But you know, I have a good relationship with ESPN, with Top Rank. I'd like to think I have a good relationship with most people. And you know, this isn't about just trying to take over the sport of boxing. And if I fight,
the news articles say $1 billion takeover of boxing.
Yeah, well, there you go. They can write what they want. But listen, we intend to be the market leader, but we intend to work with people. Now, if I have fighters on my show that aren't promoted by Matchroom, that's no problem, as long as it's quality content for the fan.
Do you decide that, in other words, is there going to be, you obviously have John Skipper just came on, but is there going to be a boxing?
Yeah, I mean, we have a much more control than we do. We would do working with another network, put it that way. And that's one of the appeals. It's not a case of we get away with what we want, you know? This is really about building quality shows, quality fighters, quality programming, quality support programming, shoulder programming for the fans. So the pressure's on us. They've paid the money, you know, and it's not a case of there's the billion Eddie, good luck mate, we'll see you in 8 years. This is, there's the billion Eddie, we want the best, so I have to deliver that.
The UK shows, are they going to be in the US essentially simulcasts of what is shown on Sky?
No, yeah, basically. So all of our
Adam Smith. Finally.
Exactly. Yeah. So he'll be there. Yeah. So all our UK shows will be shown on DAZN in America, and obviously our 16 US shows will also be shown live on DAZN.
Okay. Have you thought about announcing team? Because that's something that's very controversial.
That's another thing where what appeals to me is they want our input in that, and I've got my ideas. Doesn't mean they're going to listen to them necessarily, but at least I can put them across. But we're building from scratch. We've got a blank canvas, and that's really appealing to me.
To get people to pay for this service, you're going to have a lot of content on there, and the U.S. audience, because I know DAZN is in a lot of different countries, and so they could show the NFL in Europe or Canada or something, or another country, whereas here, the NFL is already contracted to be on mostly free TV or cable TV. Are there other boxing events? The World Boxing Super Series comes to mind, which has not gotten a U.S. telecast, even though they've had some great, you have some guys in that, they've had some great fights and great fighters. Have you thought about maybe working with something like that?
Possibly. I mean, we intend to attract other boxing content to the channel outside of Matchroom. So I will be working with DAZN to look at what's available in terms of US rights for the boxing subscriber. But again, when you look at the platform, this is just this is just the move into boxing. This isn't the move into baseball or NFL or basketball. That's to come. So
in the future, they said when those rights become free in the U.S. Right now they're tied up.
Yeah, but for how long? A year, 18 months. There'll be other, there'll be all kinds of content that they'll be looking to acquire. That's not really my business. My business is boxing. So produce the greatest shows that I possibly can, the best content from around the world for fight fans, and make sure that we make DAZN the home of boxing in the US.
What about the UK? Will there be any of your content on DAZN in the UK or other countries?
No, Sky. So all of our 16 shows in the US will be shown live on Sky Sports as well.
Okay, so it's going to be
great news for everybody.
Right, it's going to be different networks in different countries.
Yeah,
for people to
absolutely.
Get
DAZN is our US TV partner.
And do you see this in some ways in competition with the new ESPN Plus, which is showing a lot of boxing?
I guess it is. I mean, again, once everything's up and running, you'll see the ESPN offering, and you'll see the DAZN offering. Interestingly, John Skipper probably did that deal with Top Rank.
Yeah,
now he's heading up Perform and DAZN. So it's funny how the world moves around. So he's a very intelligent guy. He has huge credibility in the business. He knows what he's doing, and I'm delighted to be working with him.
Last thing, because I know you've been asked this before and there's a lot of speculation. Do you have a time frame when we're going to have an announcement on when Anthony Joshua's next fight will be?
I would say in the next 3 weeks, something like that. I mean, people ask me, is there any update? All I can say to you is we're talking, we continue to talk. There's good communication between myself and Al Heyman regarding questions that need answering. We're keeping it out of the media at the moment, which is good. And AJ wants to fight in the UK. He feels like he's earned that right because of what we've built there. So we're talking, and we'll see what happens.
All right, good luck with this.
Thank
We're
you,
going to find out and see how this goes, and we'll start the Eddie Club again.
Let's go. Cheers, mate.
Within it. So the fact that ESPN are now doing an OTT service at last is good news, and we hope that they do a good job of convincing people the future of sport is watching it on internet streaming.
Except from what I understand, to get ESPN Plus, you still have to have an active cable subscription, as opposed to DAZN.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have some restrictions because of their cable contracts, and also they're going to have some restrictions because they've got they've obviously got certain quality thresholds where they're going to keep their best content on their channels. Right, we don't have an ESPN 1 or an ESPN 2 or a Sky Sports 1. For us, those have been amazing channels over the last 30 years, but in the next 3 or 4 years, those channels don't make sense. People just want to watch live sport and on-demand sport when they want on whatever device. So any content that we sign will always be on the platform. We're not going to have a split between our channels and our OTT service. Everything we've got is all going to be in one package for one price. So they've got to work out how they transition and what they do, but for us the model's a lot simpler. We don't have any channels, we don't have an old channel business. Everything we've got is going to be on our platform for one price, no contract, you just sign up to it and you start watching.
Is it going to be archived if you missed a live one?
Yeah, so everything's live and everything's on demand. We find we have a lot of time shift viewing, so we'll obviously be having a lot of fights from the UK as well as the US. The UK fights will come in at a perfect time. They'll come in at 5 or 6 o'clock US time. We'll have the US fights at prime time. But we might have some fights from Asia as well that come in the middle of the night, so you'll be able to watch those on demand, or if you've missed some of our shows, you can watch them the next day. We archive everything for 14 days, and we show some of the greatest moments from the history of sport as well. So, yeah, if you can't make it live, you can watch it on demand straight away.
You said during the press conference you haven't worked out the price point yet. I know in other countries it's been about $20 US, which is a lot more than some of these other services. Do you have any idea what it's going to be about for the US?
Yeah, well, no, we're not going to announce it yet, but it's going to be consistent with the other markets. So in Germany, it's 9.99 euros. In Japan, it's 17.50 yen, which is about 16 bucks. So it's going to be a similar model, similar pricing, similar model. And the thing with the DAZN is it's not just the price. The price is going to be low, but it's the fact that there's no obligation, there's no contract, there's no strings attached. You just sign up to it. It's free for the first month. If you like it, you start paying. If you don't like it, you can pause your subscription, you can work it out. So there's not going to be any conditions or contracts, because we know we've got so much content, you're probably going to keep watching it and you're probably going to stay with us a long time. That's certainly what's happened in Japan and Germany. People have looked at it and said, you know, in Germany it's 9.99 euros. In a Munich beer hall, you can get probably one beer for that. So people go, the price is right, the quality of the content is good, I'm just going to keep the subscription going. So it's not just about the price, it's about making sure that the terms are fan friendly and that consumers can watch it when they want, however they want.
And a technical issue, I was reading some fans in Canada were complaining about the NFL streams. They were having technical problems with it. How do you plan on dealing with that? Because the U.S. is very spotty in terms of its broadband speed, its technical issues. The providers, the telcos are not very good. The cable companies are really the worst rated in terms of consumers. So how do you see dealing with that?
We do a lot of work on the testing before we launch a service. I mean, when we've been rolling out in the new countries, sometimes a certain device has a certain glitch and you've got to work out how to make it work properly on that service. But we're already live in some big territories. We've got millions of people already using the service. So we're not worried about that. I mean, obviously the challenges we have are different. So other OTT services like Netflix or Hulu are SVOD. They're on demand. Ours isn't on demand, ours is live. So it is, the pressure on us as a platform is obviously higher, because you can guarantee that people aren't coming in on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They're all going to come in on a Saturday, 10 minutes before Eddie's fight starts. So we have to manage those huge peaks. But we've done it in all the other territories. The platform has been unbelievably stable. In the last 6 months, our average uptime is 99.91% of live content. So you're always going to have an occasional glitch with internet streaming, but I think plenty have gone before us now. It's pretty much stabilised in most markets. It's a good service, and we haven't had any major platform issues. And we've been showing some pretty big events in Germany and Japan, and things have held up very, very well.
When do you expect the U.S. launch to be?
It'll be later in the summer, so end of summer, and we'll start putting on some of Eddie's UK shows straight away in August, and then our first big show here in the US is going to be in mid to late September. That's the plan.
It's your boy Big Baby. Make sure you guys tune in to Kristal Hart show. Big Baby and Kristal Hart mean some knockouts.
We're here with Jarrell Big Baby Miller. I got to ask you this. I saw a video of you on YouTube from several years ago.
Okay.
And you were asked, what's the most important combat sport? And you said Muay Thai at the time.
Yes.
Now you're on the precipice of fighting for the heavyweight boxing championship of the world, which a lot of people want to see you have in your next fight after. Tell us about that transition, because those sports obviously have some similarities, but they're very different in technique, footwork, distance, all of that.
I mean, both sports are technical. They're both hard. But I said what sport for me is the one that helped me transition life better was Muay Thai. Just because the martial art aspect, you think different, you move different, and plus you learn how to use different parts of your body. Where in boxing, you're only using your hands. So Muay Thai will help you more in a street fight. Defending against more than one attacker or what it is. So I say, Muay Thai is physically more important to me, because I feel like it will protect you not only in the ring but outside the ring. Now boxing, of course, pays more in the ring. So I mean they're both tough sports regardless. But that's why I said Muay Thai to me was one of the most important sports, because it can help you on the street.
What do you think of this new company that Eddie Hearn is starting, and how will it affect fighters?
I think it's great. Anything that's with boxing on this level of magnitude and has the funds behind it, I think it's great. I think it's phenomenal. The main thing is finding good talent that can keep the sport alive, because with money And with networks, you know, it doesn't mean squat if you don't have the talent to put on. So I think the main thing is finding, you know, worthy of talent that can not only walk the walk but talk the talk as well.
With this is Eddie Goldman. We just had some groundbreaking news with Matchroom Boxing USA. You want to explain to our audience exactly what this new development is?
This is a major deal that was signed between Matchroom Boxing USA, which is expanding Eddie Hearn's organization. It's known for promoting many fighters, Anthony Joshua, Dillian White, Danny Jacobs in the U.S., and many, many others. And they've signed with a company that is not as well known in the U.S. and is actually relatively new, called DAZN, D-A-Z-N. People had to learn how to pronounce it.
Where's DAZN out of?
DAZN is they're headquartered in London. They actually, as we speak, haven't opened shop to open their streaming services for U.S. customers yet, but that's coming in about a month or two. They're working on that. What they provide is what's called an over-the-top service, or OTT, which is basically video streaming, not on TV, although you could hook it up. There's ways to hook it up to these new fancy TVs. That
Smart
can spy on you.
TVs, a smart TV.
That'll spy on you there. But what it is you could watch their service just like other streaming services on your computer, on your smartphone, on your tablet, on devices like
everybody's smart. Everybody's smart but me.
that. Okay. Well, you have one of those things. Well, here's the deal. You don't have a contract. It isn't a network. You don't have to get a cable box. You don't have to get all that in. With the devices that you already have or are going to have anyway, you could watch the service for a fee. And it's generally a flat fee. It's different in different countries. Obviously, different countries have different currencies. And it's between roughly $15 and $20 a month. Here's what they have to do to get over in the United States. In Japan, in Europe, in Canada, they could show American sports, major American sports, the NFL, NBA, big sports like that, and that otherwise are very difficult or impossible to get. In Japan, for example, there's very little cable service and you have satellite service, but it's very small. So if you get this online, you could watch these events, you watch these other sports. In the U.S., of course, as of now, these sports are all contracted to all sorts of different networks. Most
ESPN Plus, that's $4.99 a month.
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
I'm jumping the gun.
I think the content that they can offer in terms of boxing will be better than what's called ESPN Plus, because they're talking about 16 fights a year from the UK, which are already on Sky Sports, and people in the US have found various strange ways to watch those things. 16 fights originating in the US, and it's 32 fights a year, so almost, say, 3 fights a month, the whole card, and they'll be able to show the whole card, whereas here on HBO or Showtime, they'll show 2 or 3 fights. Maybe on one of the secondary networks, they'll put some of the undercard fights, but they'll be able to put the whole thing on because you don't have the same problems that you have when you're doing a TV network. And they say they're going to develop shoulder programming, interviews, all that kind of stuff. We'll see, and we'll see the quality of the fights because we're talking about a lot of fights, and we're talking about getting these fighters known to people. A fighter like Dillian White's a very exciting heavyweight fighter, but he's based in the UK. A lot of people may not know him. And so how do you build up interest if he's in the main event? Or you just had Tony Bellew against David Haye in the UK. Maybe people know David Haye, not as much Tony Bellew. It's an interesting fight. It was an important fight. And you have to build up interest by showing his old fights, his history, doing interviews with them, all the stuff that you'd build up. So you know instead of just 2 guys getting in the ring and fighting with each other, who are they, what's the significance? So they say they're going to be able to do that. The thing they're going to have to come up with to make this work in the United States is enough programming that people are going to spend. They haven't announced the price yet, but it's probably going to be in the $15, $20 a month range. What are you going to pay for to watch 3 boxing shows a month?
Will they have any problems with unions and all those type of other things that happen in the United States?
Well, in the venues, yeah. In the venues, they will. And also, they're going to need technicians in their office and all of that. But remember, they're going on the internet. So that it's not like cable technicians where the cable company has its own employees and you have the crap Spectrum, has refused to negotiate with the...
So what you'll
IBEW.
need is internet.
You'll need the internet either through a computer, a laptop, a desktop, a mobile device, a smartphone, a tablet, any of those types of things. And they're not in that business at all. They're in the content business of providing that. So are they going to be able to, what are they going to show? Some European football matches that there's already a lot of that on free TV or cable TV in the U.S. And then people even call the sport something different over here. In the U.S. we call it soccer. And you say football, you think of the NFL. You're going to load up on a lot of that kind of stuff, which maybe is obviously the most popular sport in the world. They're very popular in the UK and in Europe, but not as popular in the United States. So they're looking down the road to be able to get that content. Right now they can't put on a Yankees-Red Sox game, but they hope in a couple of years in a very crowded sports environment to be able to bid for those sports rights in a few years when those contracts are up. And remember, the big American sports are on more than one service and more than one network.
Well, it is progressive. I mean, look at what has happened. We've lost newspapers. Most people do see things online. I guess you could be at work and also hit on the app and watch some sports. So I guess maybe it is the new way of viewing. News.
Down the road, yes.
It's sports.
Down the road, yes. And there's a lot of differences with ESPN Plus that, to me, give it an advantage. Although again, we don't know the price point, we don't know the whole programming package. First of all, for ESPN Plus, although that's just $4.99 a month, you still need to have cable subscription. You don't for DAZN. You could cut the cord or never have the cord.
For ESPN Plus,
you have to have a cable subscription, paying all that money to one of these.
So I'm paying to Spectrum or whoever, and I'm also paying the $4.99
yes.
a month to
For
have
DAZN,
the app.
it's up to you. You can get as much or as little as you want on that. If you want to keep cable, you can. If you want to get rid of cable, you can get rid of it. You can make that choice.
They call it the Netflix of sport.
Well, they say
Maybe.
it's going to, this is a debate been going on in the techie business world that I've been following. Can there be a Netflix of sports? Because sports are divided. There's so many different sports, so many different countries, so many complicated rights fees for these things. And it's different in each country. The U.S. is very parochial with sports. If we were to talk, like, for example, I'm talking about the Yankees and the Red Sox, okay?
You could go up two. Do we have a score here?
I don't think it started yet as we're recording. The thing is, we could go down. We're in Rockefeller Center. We could go down in the street and say, what do you think of the Yankees and Red Sox? And then we could find a lot of people could discuss it intelligently, too, about what's going on. If you go in the streets of London and you ask about the Yankees and Red Sox, or you go in Tokyo, which is a huge baseball country but has their own baseball league, the Yankees and Red Sox, they're not going to, very few people are going to know, very few people are going to watch. Just if I said, what's happening in the Champions League in football? We go down, what do you mean football? You talk about the Giants and the Jets? No, we're talking about football in the Champions League or the Premier League or whatever. I don't really know. I don't follow that sport. The point is that it's different, and the sports world in the U.S. is very parochial. In other words, outside of the U.S., very few people care about the NFL. Very few people care about Major League Baseball, because even the baseball fans, if you're in Korea, they have their own league. If you're in Japan, they have their own league, and there are many other leagues. So people do follow what's going on in Major League Baseball, but they have their own leagues, and they don't really know, they don't follow it in the same way. Boxing is different. It's an international sport, so this can be on everywhere. But even with Matchroom, they have a very good deal with Sky Sports that's showing all of their fights in the UK. It's on other networks around the world. It gets very complicated. So to say there can be one Netflix of sports, that's going to take a huge
Well, that's how they
shakeout.
marketed
It's
it.
going to be very difficult to do. And you mentioned even Netflix. What Netflix shows in the U.S. is different what it shows in other countries, because other countries, the rights will be different. For example, the Star Trek Discovery is on Netflix. I think and I'm not sure which countries, but I know outside of the U.S. it's on Netflix. In the U.S. you got to get the CBS app, the CBS All Access OTT service. It gets very complicated. So can there be one Netflix of sports? I think it's going to be very difficult. But DAZN seems to have a lot of money. They seem to have some very experienced executives. They brought in John Skipper, formerly the head recently of ESPN, to be one of their top executives. They're bringing in Eddie Hearn, arguably the most important and powerful boxing promoter in the world. Can they make it work? Will people shell out this money? Where will the money come from? What's going to happen in the economy in the next year or two when they're really rolling out the zone in the United States? There are a lot of questions that need to be answered. So it's an interesting proposition. The jury is still out, and we're going to see, and we're going to also see what kind of fights they put on. You know, if these are low-level Joe Schmo against Joe Blow fights, people are going to say, why the hell am I paying for this? But if they're putting on top-level championship fights, and then people get on Twitter and say, wow, this is an important fight, this is a great fight, then they'll have a shot at doing it. So we'll see. It's a very interesting proposition. They claim to be heavily capitalized with $1 billion, and we'll see how they do.
Well, that's it. I'm Kristal Hart. This is the Kristal Hart Show. This is Eddie Goldman. You know, when my dad was alive, he would always say, I just love that guy because he knows about sports. So I'm trying to give you the best that there is. Eddie Goldman, no holds barred. Yes.
Thank you, darling.